It all started, I think, with a chipmunk, or a couple of chipmunks. It's hard to distinguish between chipmunks. They look exactly the same. And you would see them coming very close to the window. And we started an experiment with my boys, feeding the chipmunk with various nuts and trying to figure out their preference. Do they like cashews or hazelnuts or almonds or perhaps just sunflower seeds? They have a clear preference, I have to tell. Hazelnuts is the very top and sunflower seeds is the very bottom of this preference. So then it occurred to me that I heard about this little camera which would trigger on motion and would then turn on its own lights and start recording a video or take images. We bought this camera for probably $40 and we installed it outside on the terrace, and next day we had at least 50 images of chipmunks this close. We could see that the cheek of a chipmunk, the two sides can exceed the size of its head. It can swallow or just store 4 hazelnuts and escape back to its burrow. It was all very exciting. And then one day, I remember we were walking back home in the evening and we saw this fox on the meadow here running across. And then we thought, okay, well, why don't we use our wildlife cam to capture images of the fox? So we brought down the camera to this spot and we attached it to one of the trees. We had a debate whether to put the bait in front or not. We did. A very tasty chicken thigh, not just the bone, but including everything. And so we waited. Strange thing was that the chicken thigh disappeared without anything on the camera. Later on, I understood what probably happened. It was the fox probably came from behind the tree and it was very fast in grabbing the chicken thigh. The first real encounter with the fox was with another chicken thigh. Chicken thigh number 2 was the same spot. We actually saw the fox approaching from there. It did not come up to the chicken thigh yet. It was suspicious. This chicken thigh looked just too good. It grabbed the branch, which was in front of the chicken thigh, and ran away with the branch. It was like a test. Is this a trap? I was amazed by that intelligence. I mean, I read fairy tales about foxes to the kids, and I know the fox is very clever, but this was beyond what I would have thought. And then you see the fox coming back and then grabbing the chicken thigh, but it's like a fraction of a second and running away. Next day, we did not treat the fox with the chicken thigh anymore, but just with a bone. But I was happy with the bone, and then many things emerged. It was like this wildlife surrounding us, which we have been blind to for years. There were many foxes. It was not only that one. We have started to see a population of them. We realized which ones are male and female based on how they mark their territories. Some would be hostile with others, and others would be like friends. There's a strange coincidence that this sort of coincided with COVID spreading in the world, including in New Jersey. And in front of my eyes, I think I have seen how wildlife and the density of it accelerated. I don't think it was because I got better in placing the camera on a tree or anything like that. It was just wildlife was coming back. There was less traffic. Route 1 was almost empty. And there's more migration, less people outside, and we just captured a ton of things. This monitoring of wildlife has gave us so many puzzles, and I think we resolved almost all of them in due time. To tell you an example, we have been trying to find beavers. We saw the sign of beavers on the trees, and over a month we have not seen any. And that just can't be right, I know they're very elusive and they're nocturnal, but we have never seen one, and this track camera works in the night. So we kayaked over to a little island on Lake Carnegie, and then we placed the camera there. In due time, we actually saw a beaver on the camera, swimming across the lake and bringing a fresh twig in its mouth. Then we started to understand that the entrance to the beaver den is from underneath, and so you need a proper placement of the camera to see the beaver approaching the den and entering it. We also once approached the den in the daytime, and we heard sounds coming from inside. They were very subtle. We placed a microphone on the den and we recorded. And later on we saw the baby beavers coming out and swimming on the lake. Then we could hear them before that. So that's an example of like a puzzle which we solved over time, and it kept us excited during the virus and the lockdowns. I think my passion for astronomy started when I was a little boy. We moved to Nigeria with my parents. We were actually on a very remote part of Nigeria on the border of Cameroon, and we lived on a farm. And there was nothing like my kids have here. No internet, no phone, no TV. We barely had electricity. So one of my interests was nature, the garden, chameleons, the trees, scorpions. And my other interest was the night sky. And the sky was spectacular. It was nothing like from the east coast of the United States. There was essentially no light pollution. So one would see thousands of stars and the thick Milky Way. And so I wondered, what are those stars? And I remember my father brought me a book from one of his trips back to London. He bought a little book, a Ladybird series, and I remember identifying constellations, notably Orion, and that was like a great moment. On this little island on Lake Carnegie in Princeton, we saw something on the track camera which appeared like a mink, but it was way bigger. I've not seen such a big mink. It was, imagine you see a cat, but it's triple the size of a normal cat. I mean, it's just something strange. And started to look into this, and I posted it in various groups, trying to share this with people who have experience with it. Some of the experts said that this is a fisher cat. It's an interesting animal because it has nothing to do with fishing, and it's not a cat. I read that it's coming back to New Jersey, but it's extremely rare. It was part of New Jersey's wildlife, but it was extirpated because of its fur. But another one was when we saw the first raccoon. I have to say the raccoon is the most curious. It comes right on the trail cam, sniffs it, chews on it, moves it. It can be also quite annoying. Then something exciting happened one day. We had this camera set up across a creek on sort of a fallen branch. And you see the raccoon approaching and sniffing on the camera and then bumping the camera. That was very annoying, this camera was nicely set up. But then right after it bumped the camera to this new angle, we saw a mink crossing the creek on that branch. So essentially the raccoon set up the camera for us to capture the mink by coincidence. We caught on camera, obviously, a crowned night heron. We only see it on the camera because we have infrared light emitted. It catches fish in the night from the pitch dark water. I think it's really unbelievable. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We have seen so many things around that it's really unbelievable, especially because one would think this is a little city or a town and there isn't much, but that's not true. I would love to continue this thing with the help of my boys. I'm trying to scale this up, and I think this monitoring of wildlife, other than being a lot of fun, can be extremely useful. I think it's important that we understand what wildlife is surrounding us or coexists with us, so we can make the right decisions in constructing things or just generally how we behave. So the question is, what's the connection between astronomy and wildlife monitoring? I think the connection is probably very broad. It's just curiosity about science and how nature works. I also love cameras and photography and equipment of all sorts. So I like doing time-lapse videos of how a seed would grow into a plant, capturing a moment as a bald eagle catches a fish, or capturing as a star blinks because of a planet. In some sense, they are the same. They're part of a global picture of understanding nature.